Alright, so hopefully you've had some time now to write your response. I'm going to give you now a sample answer. Now the way that I'm going to do my sample answer actually is I'm going to use one piece of paper. Let me see if I can find one so that it's not all messy. So I can see always, let me use this one, so I can always see my actual planning. So remember, I'm actually going to focus on this idea of the character. I'm going to focus on the character most, but that will give me one really good seal paragraph. Now you should be spending about 10 minutes on writing a seal paragraph. So if you think you've got 25 minutes, that will give you about 2 and a bit good, really good answers in general. So now, because I'm going to focus on the character, okay, I'm going to focus on the character. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to start it like this. So remember, I'm following this idea of kind of seal, so engaging with the statement. A moment of high drama is created when Mrs. Graham appears, and I'm going to start it like this. So the writer successfully creates a moment. So look at the way that I am linking it to that statement. A moment of high drama, creates a moment of high drama when Mrs. Graham appears. So I'm now going to say how, because of the way that he presents the character. So you got it here. So the writer successfully creates a moment of high drama when Mrs. Graham appears. So how, let me just put that underneath here, like this. So how does he do that? Appears by presenting. So I'm going to focus on the character by presenting Mrs. Graham as, oh, my pen's dying, as anxious. I might even put one of the words, and agitated okay, so I'm going to write about her actions being anxious and agitated. I'm going to focus about those strong emotions and being disproportional. Actually, I'm going to explain that because it says here evaluate, so and explain. So I need to explain that as anxious and agitated. So the way Mrs. Graham reacts to the man saving the boy is effectively presented as irrational and disproportionate. And I love putting it because the reader can see that the narrator was only trying to help and take care of the boy. Okay, so look at that. So I've got now my idea, and I'm really explaining. Look at the way that you really explain. This is how you evaluate, really explaining what you think something. Now I might add also, because then I'm going to do that in a second in terms of kind of how she appears. So the way Mrs. Graham reacts to the man saving the boy is effectively presented as irrational and disproportionate because the reader can see that the narrator was only trying to help and take care of the boy. In addition, I always like using connectors like in addition or furthermore. In addition, her entrance is sudden and unexpected. Making the scene more dramatic as she darted upon the narrator. Now look at the way that I've already now put a really good engagement with the statement. Okay, so I'm constantly talking about this moment of high drama. So I've got high drama, Mrs. Graham. So there, the way Mrs. Graham reacts effectively presents as irrational because the reader the reader can see that the narrator was only trying to help and take care of the boy. In addition, her entrance is sudden and unexpected, making the scene more dramatic. So I'm constantly engaging with the statement. So if I went back to my seal, that is what I'm doing there. My evaluation here, so this is why I left it in pink. A lot of my evaluation is linked around the character and how the character is being presented. So for example, I've got this idea of Mrs. Graham being presented as anxious and agitated. The way, so again, the writer, the way Mrs. Graham reacts to the man saving is presented as irrational and disproportionate. And I put the word because I'm explaining it there. And then I've talked about like the way that he's only trying to help. In addition, her entrance is sudden and unexpected. And I've actually already added a tiny bit there of evidence. So if I went back to my seal, so I've got here evidence, I've also already put my bit of evidence. So all I've got left to do now is this idea of analysing. And when I do analysing, so look, so I've got analysing. So I'm going to be doing analysing a range of quotes and ideas. All I do now is kind of zoom in on words and zoom in on techniques so that I can get my answers. So, for example, and I've already written it actually here. So I'm going to say, in terms of my analysis, so to show that I'm analysing, I always say the writer uses. So the writer, I'm so sorry about that, guys. The writer successfully, okay, hopefully he's going to stop. So the writer, Cosmo, the writer successfully, sorry guys. Apologies, I'm not starting the answer again. So the writer successfully uses the verb darted. Now look at the way that I'm zooming in. This is something that we did for question 2. Look, I've got the writer successfully, I'm putting that evaluative there, but I've got the writer successfully uses, okay, so that's my technique, the verb darted. So I'm going to zoom in on the word darted. And what does darted create an image of? I'm doing my magic circles. The verb darted to create an image of urgency and desperation. In addition, or actually, let's use furthermore. Furthermore, comma, the word darted presents Mrs. Graham as aggressive and almost threatening. And so I'm going to link it back, because I've said all of this, I'm going to link it back to the statement, creating high drama as we don't know how the narrator will react. Now, if I wanted to, I can leave it there. I'm actually probably on 9 marks out of 20. Like, this is a really detailed, already kind of response. However, I want you to be actually analyzing more things. And like I said, I've already got ready this idea of darted upon me and then her black locks streaming in the wind. So I'm also going to add that there. In addition, comma, okay, so I've got furthermore, in addition, the writer effectively describes, now this is the how, this is using a technique, describes Mrs. Graham's black locks streaming, in the wind. So again, I'm talking about the techniques. The writer effectively describes. So look at the way that I'm following that seal. And I'm going to say now, what does that create? So this creates a frantic atmosphere as, and I'm going to explain why. Why do I think that? As her hair looks almost wild. This description also makes Mrs. Graham almost appear ghostly and supernatural. Further highlighting her unexpected entrance. Full stop. Her unusual appearance makes the scene dramatic. Okay? Now look at the way that actually in that one seal paragraph, I've done the statement, I've really evaluated, and then I've actually zoomed in on a few techniques. I've used the verb and then I've looked at this phrase, but also I've got a range of ideas that explain why I think what I think. Like darted, presents, like look at all the ideas that are being explored. Urgency, desperation, aggressiveness, threatening, and then this idea of the streaming in the wind creates a frantic kind of atmosphere. The description makes Mrs. Graham almost appear ghostly and supernatural, further highlighting her unexpected entrance. Her unusual appearance creates that sense of drama. So this is a really, really developed paragraph. And if you notice, actually, and bear in mind I had to stop to tell my dog off, and I've been explaining it. It's taken me 15 minutes to write. Like, as you're writing it, you wouldn't be talking, so you probably would be able to squeeze 2 paragraphs like this in your 20-minute response. Now, my next bit would be, I would talk about the events, so that would be my next one, and then my last one might be about the themes. Okay, so now check your answers and see how you got on with this paragraph.